The things that I come across, not a lot, but I come across, I'll give advice, blah, blah, blah. And then the client tells me, well, Jack at work said, blah, blah, blah. Just the opposite. How do you handle a situation like that? A situation like that?
Well, I normally come up with a question, and I say, "Well, why don't you ask Jack if he knows the answer, and then we can talk." Would you, how about this law that says this? What does he think about it? I normally send them to Jack with a question.
I usually tell this story. And the story is this. You just came from the doctor, and the specialist, the cardiologist says, hey, Vince, you need open heart surgery. Now, are you the type of person that's going to go home and ask your friends at work and your spouse, hey, should I have that surgery?
That's a good one.
Because, my friends and my spouse, they're not doctors. But I think everyone, even me, will ask someone about something that if I really sat down and thought about it, they're not qualified to answer. I consider myself a pretty smart guy, but I don't know everything. Recently they told me, hey, Vince, you need, the dealership told me you need a new transmission. Now, I could go to Pet Boys, buy the Chilton on, transmissions for my model car and the make. I could buy all the tools, all the supplies, how long do you think it would take me to change my transmission?
The question is whether or not you can change it.
Right. 2 years will go by before I give up, right? Because the reason, I'm a relatively smart guy, but I don't know anything about mechanics, auto mechanics, about changing transmissions. I don't have the knowledge, the training, the experience, the tools, or the supplies. I just don't know it.
There's something else that I always tell my clients, and I want them to know. It takes much more work to fix something gone wrong than actually do it from the onset.
Right.
It's there's a saying, you're not rich enough to buy used or something like that.
Right.
It's when the case.
Go ahead.
When the case has gone into the wrong hand and then reaches the hands of the expert, it takes a lot more work to fix it. And that's if it's fixable.
Right. This happened many years ago. A woman came to me about a property issue in a divorce. And she asked me, how much would you charge me, to represent me? And I told her, $3,500. And she said, no, that's too much. The paralegal around down the street and around the block is going to charge me $800. Okay, can't argue with that if you're just going by price alone. So she didn't hire me. She went to the paralegal. They did all the work. Maybe about 3 years later, she comes back into the office. And she says, you have to help me fix this. Because now we got divorced, and I think I'm going to lose about $300,000 on this property. It's kind of involved, but it had to do with the drafting of the judgment and what it said and what it didn't say. I said, well, we talked about this, right? And I kind of told you what you were supposed to do. And she said, well, you were too expensive. I said, $3,500 is too expensive to protect $300,000. So anyway, she hired me. And I went to court because the husband's lawyer had made a motion to sell this property and distribute it a certain way, the funds a certain way, based upon how the judgment was written. And what I actually think happened, that while the paralegal was representing the person, the paralegal and the client got pencil whipped by an experienced attorney who represented the husband. And, you know, I kind of felt that it was intentional, kind of tricked, but there were enough safeguards that were planted in the settlement agreement that kind of protected the husband and kind of, you know, favored this $300,000 windfall to him. Well, I went to court, we argued the motion, and I lost. And I told the woman, I said, you know, you're probably going to lose this. And we lost. And she wanted to appeal. And I said, hey, you know, I told you 3 years ago what to do, you know, and you didn't do it for whatever reason. It is okay. It's okay. I'm not going to tell you I told you so, but it's okay. But now you've lost about $300,000.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those things where sometimes you might want to get that expert advice that you need to protect yourself, even if you think, you know, oh, I don't really want to really pay that much. But in the end, it costs, you know, costs you 10 times, 100 times more.
Yes, it happens. And that's, again, if it's fixable. Sometimes
Right.
it's not fixable. Yeah.